Hey folks, let's talk about a bit of air law and specifically about the freedoms of the air. 5 fundamental freedoms for overflight and 4 a little bit less universal. Now these were established back in 1944 when ICAO formed up as the International Civil Aviation Organization. We'll have a look at them one at a time, shall we? The first one, the first freedom of the air, is the right to overflight. So I take off from country A, I overfly country B en route to country C with passengers on board. Now, country B permits that, although they can charge for it, because one of the rights enshrined in the ICAO is that every country has sovereignty over the airspace above its territory. So a country owns its airspace. So they grant you the freedom to overfly. Now, the second one is the country B allowing you to land in their country for non-traffic purposes. For example, A to B, land to refuel or maintenance, and then carry on to country C. Now, that doesn't give you any rights to transport people or cargo between those countries. And nowadays, it's less common than it used to be because we got the legs to do the Atlantic long flights without needing to stop for technical reasons. So a lot more non-stop flight. Now, those were the first 2 transit rights that the Chicago Convention established, and they are known as the International Air Services Transit Agreement. There's 129 countries globally that have signed up to that, so that's nearly everybody. But there are a few exceptions. The European Union, for example, they have a blacklist of airlines banning certain carriers from operating in EU airspace over safety concerns. If they're not happy with the country's maintenance record, they can just say, no, you can't overfly. And they can charge, as I've said earlier, for overflying your territory. Now, the third freedom of the air is the privilege to transport commercial traffic from one country to another. So country A is granted the right to carry passengers and goods from their own country into country B. And country B then allows them to unload there. The fourth freedom is the opposite. That's bringing people or goods from country B back to your country. The fifth freedom is the right between foreign countries originating or ending in one's own country. So I might take off from A, land in B, drop off passengers and freight, pick up more passengers and freight, and carry on to country C. Might sound like an everyday occurrence, and sure it is, but in international law it takes quite a lot to do that. It also means that you can sell tickets to transport passengers between any combination of those countries, so from B to C. Now, those are the 5 freedoms that are officially recognised by ICAO because they form part of the international agreement, the so-called 5 Freedoms Agreement. But there are still some others that are granted to some airlines by some countries. They're referred to by ICAO as the so-called freedoms because they're not genuinely. The 6th freedom is the right to fly from a foreign country to another while stopping in one's own country for non-tech reasons. So I could fly, from B to operate from country A to country C, and a stopover in my own country. So that's the modified 6th freedom, which is almost the same, but it could be from an airline flying from country A to another part of country A via country B. So a stop in their home country again. The 7th freedom is flying between 2 foreign countries. So an airline from country A, granted that right, is allowed to pick up passengers in B, take them to C, drop them off and bring people back. The 8th freedom is the right to fly inside a foreign country. So a big country, for example, take off in country A, land on the west coast of country B, continue across there to the east coast of country B, and still pick up passengers and cargo as you go. It's all about flexibility and granting the privilege to transport people and goods from one place to another between 2 foreign airports. It's also known as consecutive cabotage. It's a legal term, but there we are. The 9th and the final freedom is the right to fly commercially selected flights to a foreign country. So from country A, you could be operating domestically between 2 points in country B. Now that is standalone cabotage, which is very different. So some of those freedoms are fairly universal, like the first 5. The second four are quite rare and only granted in single aviation markets. EU's a good example. Ryanair, Wizz Air, people who use those freedoms on a regular basis within the European Union. Not as complicated as it sounds. See you next time.